The women of Victorian England were literally poisoning themselves for beauty every single day. They'd wake up, look in the mirror and think, you know what would make me more attractive? Literal poison. Arsenic complexion wafers to make the skin pale. Belladonna eye drops that could cause blindness. Lead face powder. Mercury makeup. And the craziest part, they knew these things were toxic. The warnings were right there on the packaging. But they did it anyway because being pretty was worth risking death. Forget horror movies. Just imagine waking up tomorrow in 1860 as a Victorian woman and realizing the day ahead involves lacing yourself so tight you can barely breathe, potentially going blind from your makeup routine, and having exactly zero legal rights. Modern Monday mornings don't seem so bad now, do they? So, yeah, if these stories work for you, subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Last week, someone from Canada said they listened during lunch breaks. Not judging, just wasn't expecting that. All right, tonight it's Victorian England in 1860. But hold up. Get comfortable first. Fluff those pillows. Pull up that blanket. Trust me, once we get going, you won't want to move. So congratulations. You just woke up in 1860. The first thing you notice is the cold, not the gentle chill of forgetting to close a window, but a bone-deep penetrating cold that makes your teeth chatter. Unlike your cozy memory foam mattress, you're lying on what feels like a lumpy sack stuffed with straw. Your back already aches. The pillow beneath your head is hard and smells faintly of mildew. It's still dark, but not completely. A weak grey light filters through thin curtains. The room around you is unfamiliar, smaller than you're used to, with high ceilings and peeling wallpaper. And wait, is that green wallpaper? The gorgeous emerald colour catches your eye before you remember something terrifying. Victorian green wallpaper contained arsenic. It's literally seeping poison into the air you're breathing right now. Miss, are you awake? Miss? You nearly jump out of your skin as a young woman, barely more than a girl really, appears at your bedside. She's wearing a plain grey dress with a white cap and apron. A maid? You have a maid? We must hurry, miss. Your mother expects you downstairs for breakfast in 1 hour, and we have much to do. You open your mouth to ask what the hell is going on, but what comes out is, yes, Martha, please prepare my wash water. Wait, who's Martha? And why did those words come out of your mouth? You didn't decide to say them. The maid, Martha, apparently, nods and moves to a ceramic pitcher and basin in the corner. You realise with a sinking feeling that there's no bathroom attached to this room. No toilet. No shower. Just that little basin of water that Martha is now pouring from the pitcher. It's quite cold this morning, miss. I've added just a touch of rose water to your wash, as you prefer. As you prefer? You've never had a preference about rose water in your life, but somehow you know exactly how this works. Your body moves on autopilot, sitting up in bed and accepting the damp cloth Martha hands you. Instead of a proper shower, you're going to dab at your face and neck with this barely damp cloth in freezing cold air. The survival instinct immediately kicks in. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. In a time before antibiotics, before modern medicine, even a simple cold could kill you, and you're sitting here in a frigid room with your neck and chest exposed to the icy air, dabbing yourself with cold water. You shiver uncontrollably. The fire's catching nicely now, miss, Martha says, and you notice she's been stoking a small fireplace. The pitiful flames barely warm the air around it, let alone the entire room. Shall we begin your toilette? Your toilette? Oh, your morning beauty routine. And judging by the array of bottles, jars, and mysterious implements Martha is laying out on the dressing table, this is going to be a whole production. Is that the arsenic cream? You hear yourself ask. Yes, miss. Dr. Campbell's arsenic complexion wafers, as you requested. The apothecary assures they're perfectly safe. Just a very small amount of arsenic to clear the blood. Holy shit, you're about to literally eat arsenic for breakfast. And here's the thing. Part of you, the part that somehow knows how to be a Victorian woman, isn't even surprised. You know that pale skin is essential, a sign of wealth and beauty. Tanned skin meant you worked outdoors, a fate worse than death for a proper Victorian lady. And if achieving that perfect pallor meant slowly poisoning yourself, well, beauty is pain, right? Perhaps just half a wafer today, Martha, you hear yourself say. Your body, at least, seems to have some sense of self-preservation. But before you can dwell on the arsenic, Martha is already moving on to the next horror show. Your belladonna drops for your eyes, miss. This time, your modern brain jolts fully awake. Belladonna, also known as deadly nightshade, a highly toxic plant used to dilate women's pupils, giving them that wide-eyed, vulnerable look that Victorian men apparently found irresistible. It could cause blurred vision, headaches, or, blindness. Just a small drop in each eye, you hear yourself say, as if this is perfectly normal. Martha approaches with the dropper, and you can't help but flinch as she puts the poisonous liquid directly into your eyes. The burning sensation is immediate. Your eyes water profusely as the belladonna seeps into your corneas. Your vision blurs, and for a terrifying moment you wonder if you'll go blind. But then it settles, and when you blink away the tears, the world has a strange, hazy quality to it. Your pupils are now enormous, making you look perpetually surprised, and by Victorian standards, absolutely stunning. Now for your hair, miss. What fresh hell is this? You soon find out as Martha removes your nightcap, revealing your hair, which apparently hasn't been washed in weeks, months, because washing your hair too frequently in Victorian times was considered unhealthy. Instead, it was brushed vigorously to distribute the natural oils. 100 strokes every night. Martha starts brushing, and it hurts. Your scalp is tender, and the bristles of the brush feel like tiny knives, but you sit there and take it because what choice do you have? Now, miss, we must get you dressed before your complexion cream fully dries. Ah, yes, the main event. Getting dressed in 1860 is not the quick, casual affair you're used to. It's a military operation requiring assistance, patience, and an alarming disregard for internal organ health. First comes the chemise, a simple, loose-fitting undergarment that falls to your knees. Then the drawers, basically loose cotton shorts with an open crotch. Yes, really, it made using chamber pots easier. Then comes the corset. The corset, your ribcage instinctively contracts at the sight of it. Made of whalebone and steel, it's designed to cinch your waist to an impossible size while pushing your breasts up to your chin. Arms up, miss, Martha instructs, and you comply. The corset goes around your torso, and Martha begins the lacing process from behind. With each pull, the corset tightens. Your lungs have less and less room to expand. Your ribs feel like they're being gradually crushed. I can't breathe, you gasp. Just a bit tighter, miss. Your waist was 19 inches at Lady Harrington's ball last week. Mrs. Fairchild's daughter had 18 and a half. Your mother was most displeased. Each pull of the laces feels like a vice crushing your internal organs. Because it is, your stomach, liver, and intestines are literally being compressed and displaced. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's potentially deadly. Digestive issues, breathing problems, even deformed ribs were common side effects of long-term corset wearing. But apparently, you've been doing this your whole life. Your body is already partially deformed to accommodate the torture device. You find yourself automatically adjusting your breathing. Shallow, upper chest breaths only. No deep breathing allowed. You'll faint if you try to exert yourself too much. There we are, miss. 19 inches exactly, Martha says with satisfaction, tying off the laces. You glance down and barely recognize your own body. Your waist is impossibly tiny, your breasts pushed up dramatically. You look like a cartoon character, an exaggerated hourglass that no human should naturally have. But there's no time to dwell on it because the dressing process continues. Next comes the crinoline, a cage-like structure made of steel hoops that holds your skirts out in an enormous bell shape. It weighs several pounds on its own and makes navigating doorways a strategic challenge. Then petticoats. Then finally, the dress itself. A deep blue morning dress with long sleeves, high collar, and enough fabric to make 3 modern dresses. The weight of it all is crushing. Between the corset restricting your torso and the crinoline and petticoats weighing down your lower half, you're essentially wearing a mobile prison, and you haven't even put on shoes, gloves, or a hat yet. Oh, your skin looks lovely with the arsenic, miss, Martha comments as she steps back to admire her work. So pale and clear. You stumble to the mirror, nearly tripping on your crinoline. The face staring back isn't yours. It's pale, gaunt, with dark ringed eyes that seem unnaturally large. The pupils are enormous thanks to the belladonna, giving you a perpetually startled look. Your waist is impossibly small, your posture forcibly erect due to the corset. You look beautiful by 1860 standards. You also look like you're slowly dying, which technically you are. Your gloves, miss, Martha says, holding out a pair of pristine white gloves, and your hat will need to be pinned securely. The hat is a small decorative thing that serves no practical purpose. It won't keep the sun off your face, that would darken your complexion, the horror, or keep you warm. It's purely decorative, pinned to your hair with long, sharp steel hat pins that could double as weapons in a pinch. Now, miss, your mother will be expecting you. Remember, Lady Harrington commented on your posture last week. Shoulders back, chin up. You try to take a deep breath to steady yourself, but the corset prevents it. All you can manage is a shallow gasp. One more thing, miss, Martha says, reaching for yet another bottle on the dressing table. Your rosewater mouthwash for fresh breath. At least that sounds normal, but as you swish the liquid around your mouth, you taste something metallic beneath the rose scent. You spit it back into the basin and see the water tinged slightly blue. Is there copper in this? You ask, horrified. Just a touch, miss. The latest thing from Paris, for brightness of the eyes and complexion. Great. You're ingesting copper now too. Add it to the arsenic, belladonna, and whatever toxic chemicals are in your face powder. As you prepare to leave your bedroom and face whatever fresh hell awaits you downstairs, you glance out the window. The streets below are barely visible through a thick yellow-brown fog, the infamous London pea super, a toxic mix of coal smoke, fog and pollution so thick you could sometimes barely see your hand in front of your face. People regularly died from respiratory issues caused by this smog. It dawns on you that everything in this world is trying to kill you. Your beauty products, your clothes, even the air itself. And yet Victorian women navigated this deadly obstacle course every single day, often with a smile on their arsenic-brightened faces. Miss, your mother is waiting? You straighten your spine as much as the corset will allow, lift your chin and prepare to enter the battlefield of Victorian propriety. Just getting dressed has been a near-death experience, and your day has only just begun. One moment, Martha, you say, pausing at the door. I feel a bit faint. "Oh, that's perfectly normal, miss," Martha says cheerfully. "The ladies' magazines say a delicate constitution is most becoming. Lady Harrington's daughter fainted 3 times at the winter's ball. Most elegant, everyone said." You stare at her in disbelief. Fainting, a literal medical emergency caused by lack of oxygen to the brain, is considered attractive, but of course it is. A woman so fragile, so delicate, so thoroughly feminine that she can't even remain conscious. What could be more appealing to Victorian sensibilities? Wait until you hear what happens at breakfast. If you thought the morning routine was rough, you're in for a wild ride when you meet the family. Spoiler alert, you might be getting married off by lunchtime. As you make your way down the narrow staircase, careful not to trip on your crinoline or catch your sleeves on anything, you can't help but think about how your modern morning routine, rolling out of bed, throwing on some clothes, maybe brushing your teeth if you're feeling fancy, doesn't seem so bad now. In Victorian England, beauty isn't just pain, it's slow suicide, and you've still got the rest of the day to survive. You somehow manage to make it down the stairs without tumbling to your death, which feels like a genuine accomplishment. The crinoline cage under your skirts makes navigating narrow spaces a geometry puzzle from hell. If you're not careful, you'll knock over that priceless-looking vase or tear the wallpaper with your steel hoops. Speaking of that wallpaper, more of that arsenic green everywhere. The Victorians were basically living inside poison containers and calling it fashion. Margaret, there you are. We've been waiting for 15 minutes. A stern-faced woman sits at the head of a long dining table. Your mother, apparently. She looks like she's been sucking on lemons her whole life, face pinched with permanent disapproval. Next to her sits an older man. Your father, hidden behind a newspaper. 2 younger girls, who must be your sisters, sit with perfect posture, not daring to touch the food in front of them. "I apologise, Mother," you hear yourself say. "My toilette took longer than expected. A lady should rise early enough to account for her preparations," Mother sniffs. "Lady Pembroke's daughters are always punctual." Lady Pembroke again. "Apparently, her daughters are the Victorian equivalent of the neighbour's kid who got into Harvard. You'll be hearing about them all day." You take your seat and a maid, not Martha, a different one, immediately places a teacup in front of you. The family eats in silence. You notice your portion is tiny compared to your father's plate, which is piled with eggs, sausages and toast. You have a single poached egg, half a piece of dry toast and tea. No wonder Victorian women were always fainting. They were literally starving. "Margaret," your mother says suddenly, "the Blackwoods have invited us to dine tomorrow evening. Their son Edward will be present." You nearly choke on your toast. You know exactly what this means. The Victorians didn't have dating apps. They had awkward family dinners where young people were paraded in front of each other like prize cattle at an auction, and Edward Blackwood is apparently a prime specimen your mother has her eye on. "He's recently inherited his uncle's shipping business," she continues, "quite a substantial fortune, and only 26. Ah, there it is. Money. In Victorian England, marriage wasn't about love. It was a business transaction, a merger of families, finances, and social status. And you, as a young woman, are the commodity being traded. You'll wear the blue silk with the lace trim, your mother decides, and mind your conversation. Last time you spoke at length about that book. Most unbecoming. God forbid a woman show intelligence or independent thought. Men might find it threatening. Your father grunts from behind his newspaper, apparently the extent of his contribution to the conversation. After breakfast comes the real work of your day. As a middle-class Victorian woman, your entire existence revolves around the home. Your father makes the money, but you and your mother manage it, transforming income into comfort, status, and respectability through your domestic skills. "We must review the menus for the week," your mother announces, leading you to a small writing desk in the morning room. "Mrs. Parker has requested additional funds for the kitchen, which is most irregular." Mrs. Parker is apparently the cook, and you soon discover that household management is essentially running a small business. Every penny is accounted for, every purchase justified. The Victorian middle-class lifestyle required constant vigilance against the twin terrors of debt and social embarrassment. The butcher has raised his prices again, your mother says with disapproval. We shall have to reduce our meat consumption to 3 days a week. You learn that your father's income is respectable but not lavish, keeping up appearances, maintaining the right address, the right clothes, the right social connections, stretches the family finances to breaking point. One misstep, one financial disaster, and you could tumble down the social ladder into the working class, and that would be a fate worse than death in Victorian England. Now, Margaret, you will take inventory of the linens today. The laundry comes back tomorrow, and I won't have them cheating us again. Counting sheets and tablecloths sounds boring but harmless enough. Little do you know what Victorian laundry actually involves. You head to the linen closet, a small room packed with neatly folded white fabrics. Everything in a Victorian household that can be white is white, a visual symbol of cleanliness and moral purity. But keeping things white in 19th century London, with its coal smoke and general filth, is basically impossible, which is why laundry is both constant and brutal. As you count pillowcases, your mind drifts to what's happening in the scullery right now. The laundry maid, probably no more than 14 years old, is literally boiling enormous copper vats of water, adding lye soap that burns her hands raw, and stirring clothes with a wooden paddle because touching the scalding water directly would strip her skin off. She'll spend hours scrubbing, wringing and hanging, destroying her body in the process. Laundry maids had the shortest lifespans of almost any domestic servant, their lungs damaged by steam and chemicals, their hands permanently disfigured from harsh soaps and hot water. And that's just for everyday linens. Your monthly blood cloths are a whole other nightmare. Disposable menstrual products don't exist yet. You use and reuse cotton rags, which someone, probably poor Martha, has to clean. No one talks about it. It's shameful, hidden, despite being something literally half the population experiences. Your inspection complete, you return to your mother, who's now in the drawing room with a visitor, Mrs. Harrington, mother of the infamous 18.5-inch waist girl. Margaret, pour the tea, your mother commands. Not a request, an order. Tea service is an art form in Victorian England, and you're expected to be a master. The china must be arranged just so. The tea steeped exactly 3 minutes. The milk poured to precisely the right level. It's like a chemical experiment where failure means social death. Your hands shake slightly as you lift the heavy silver teapot. One drop spilled on the lace tablecloth would be catastrophic. You've seen maids dismissed for less. I was just telling your mother about poor Mrs. Wilkinson, Mrs. Harrington says as you serve her. Lost her 3rd child last week. The fever again? How dreadful, your mother murmurs. They discuss infant death with the casual air of talking about the weather. In Victorian England, child mortality is so common it's barely remarkable. 1 in 5 children won't make it to their 5th birthday. Disease rips through families like wildfire. Measles, scarlet fever, diphtheria, whooping cough, all potentially fatal in an age before antibiotics and vaccines. And it strikes everywhere, even in wealthy households with access to doctors. Disease is democratic that way. Speaking of children, Mrs. Harrington continues, eyeing you. Any prospects for Margaret? She must be 20 now? 20, practically on the shelf by Victorian standards. Many of your peers are already married with multiple children. Some are already widows. The Blackwoods have shown interest, your mother says, and you feel yourself being discussed like livestock again. We dine with them tomorrow. Excellent match, Mrs. Harrington nods approvingly, though I hear the elder Blackwood boy had some trouble at university, gambling, I believe. And just like that, you learn that your potential husband might have a gambling problem. But does it matter? Not really. Your opinion on who you marry carries about as much weight as the family dogs. After Mrs. Harrington leaves, your mother gives you your next assignment, needlework, because of course. Your sister's wedding handkerchiefs must be finished by Friday, she says, handing you a basket of pristine white linen and impossibly fine thread. You sit by the window for better light and begin the mind-numbing process of creating tiny, perfect stitches. One mistake and you'll have to start over. The work is literally making you go blind. Victorian women commonly developed serious eye problems from hours of detailed needlework in poor light. But it's not just a hobby, it's a demonstration of virtue, patience, and feminine accomplishment. A woman's needlework showcases her value as a potential wife. Can she create beautiful things? Does she have the patience for tedious work? Will she sit quietly for hours without complaint? These are the qualities that matter in a Victorian wife. As you stab the needle through fabric for the 1,000th time, you notice movement in the street below. A woman in a plain dress hurries past, head down, a working woman, someone with actual purpose beyond decorative existence. For a moment, you envy her, despite knowing her life is probably harder than yours in material ways. At least she might get to choose her own husband. Working-class women often married for love, or at least compatibility. The price of your privilege is your freedom. Lunch comes and goes, another barely there meal that keeps your waist appropriately tiny, and then you have your one escape of the day, a supervised walk in the park. Margaret, your gloves and hat, Martha reminds you as you prepare to leave. Going outside with bare hands or an uncovered head would be as shocking as walking down the street naked in your time. Your mother accompanies you, along with your younger sisters. The park is where the middle and upper classes go to see and be seen. It's not about enjoying nature, it's about performing your social status in public. Stand straight, Charlotte, your mother hisses at your youngest sister. Mrs. Farthington is watching. Everyone is always watching. Every movement is judged. Are you walking too quickly, too boldly? Is your parasol held at the proper angle? Victorian society is a theatre, and you're always on stage. You pass a group of young men who tip their hats politely. One catches your eye and smiles. Your mother notices immediately. "Margaret," she whispers sharply. Eyes down. A lady never makes eye contact with strange gentlemen. Even your gaze belongs to your future husband. Looking at another man could start rumours that would destroy your reputation, and a woman's reputation is her only currency in this world. The walk ends, and you return home for the most dreaded part of your day, household inspection. "We shall begin in the kitchen," your mother announces. The kitchen is the heart of a Victorian home, and keeping it running is a science. The cook, Mrs. Parker, a formidable woman with forearms like a blacksmith, curtsies as you enter. "Menu for tonight, Mrs. Parker?" your mother demands. "Roast chicken, ma'am, with carrots and potatoes. Apple tart for dessert." Your mother sniffs the air suspiciously, looking for any sign of waste or impropriety. The Victorians were obsessed with food adulteration, and for good reason. Food fraud was rampant, milk watered down, flour bulked up with chalk, tea mixed with used leaves and random plants. Even bread could contain sawdust, or worse. As the lady of the house, in training, you're expected to detect these frauds, to protect your family from poison masquerading as food. It's literally life or death. Your mother runs a finger along a shelf, checking for dust. Finds none, thankfully. Mrs. Parker knows her job. Not all servants are so competent. The coal usage seems excessive, your mother notes, examining the logbook where every scuttle of coal is recorded. "See that it's reduced." Mrs. Parker's face tightens, but she nods. Reducing coal means colder cooking conditions and longer hours for her. But that's not your mother's concern. Running an efficient household is. The inspection continues room by room, every corner examined, every penny accounted for. This is what Victorian women did. Instead of having careers, they became domestic CEOs, managing complex households with military precision. By late afternoon, you're exhausted. Your ribs ache from the corset, your eyes strain from needlework, your head pounds from the constant vigilance required to navigate Victorian propriety. But the day isn't over. There's dinner to prepare for, which means another outfit change, because heaven forbid you wear the same dress all day. Martha helps you out of your day dress and into an evening gown, slightly more formal, with a lower neckline but still entirely modest by modern standards. The corset stays on, of course. It always stays on. "Your hair, miss," Martha says, attacking your head with brushes and pins. The elaborate updo she creates looks like it defies physics. It also gives you an instant headache as your hair pulls at your scalp. Dinner is a formal affair, even though it's just family tonight. Your father sits at the head of the table, serving the meat. Multiple courses are served, despite there being only 5 of you. The dishes are deliberately excessive, another display of status and wealth. You notice your father and brother are served wine, while you, your mother and sisters get watered-down ratafia, a weak fruit cordial. Alcohol is mainly for men. Women drinking anything stronger than diluted wine is scandalous. The conversation revolves around your father's work and your brother's university studies. The women are expected to listen appreciatively, asking just enough questions to show interest without challenging the men's knowledge. After dinner, the real gender divide happens. Your father and brother retreat to the study for brandy and cigars. The women withdraw to the drawing room for more needlework. Shocking. Your stitches are uneven on the left side, your mother critiques, examining your day's work. Unpick it and start again. Hours of work destroyed in a second, but you don't argue. You never argue. Victorian daughters are seen and not heard, their needs and desires secondary to the family's reputation and the men's comfort. As the evening wears on, you're permitted one small pleasure: playing the piano forte. Not because you enjoy it, but because musical accomplishment makes you more marriageable. Your fingers move mechanically over the keys, playing a pleasant but unmemorable tune. Much improved, your mother nods. The closest thing to praise you'll get. By 9 o'clock, exhaustion sets in. The day's constant performance, physically, socially, domestically, has drained you. But there's one more ritual before bed: family prayers. Your father reads from the Bible, droning on about women's submission and obedience. The irony isn't lost on you. Men control the religion that controls the women. Finally, you're allowed to retreat to your bedroom. Martha helps you undress, unlacing the corset that's been crushing your organs all day. The relief is immediate and overwhelming. Your body practically sighs as it expands to its natural shape. But the day's final indignity awaits: your beauty regimen. Because simply surviving a Victorian day isn't enough. You need to prepare for tomorrow's performance too. Martha brings a small pot of white cream. "Your cold cream, miss." Cold cream, a mixture of water, beeswax and various oils, is used to remove the day's layer of face powder. It's one of the few actually harmless beauty products in your arsenal. As Martha wipes away the powder, you catch sight of your natural face in the mirror. Pale from lack of sun, slightly gaunt from restricted food, with dark circles under your eyes from chronic exhaustion and possibly low-level arsenic poisoning. This is the true face of Victorian beauty standards. Slow deterioration masked by powder and poison. Martha brushes your hair, another 100 strokes, and helps you into a nightgown and cap. The room is cold, the fire having died down hours ago. The sheets feel damp from London's perpetual humidity. "Will there be anything else, miss?" Martha asks. You shake your head and she curtsies before leaving. Now, finally alone, you can drop the performance, the perfect posture, the perpetual slight smile, the constant awareness of being watched and judged. You sink into the lumpy mattress, your body aching in places you didn't know could ache. Your day as a Victorian woman has been exhausting in ways you never imagined, not from physical labour, though the corset is its own form of torture, but from the constant, unrelenting performance of femininity, every movement calculated, every word measured, every moment a test of your worth as a woman, a daughter, a potential wife. And tomorrow, you get to do it all again. Plus, you have the dinner with Edward Blackwood to look forward to, the man who might own you next, after your father is done with you. As you drift towards sleep, you wonder about the women who actually lived this life. Not for a day, but for decades. Women who knew nothing else, who couldn't imagine the freedoms you take for granted. Did they feel the same suffocation, the same sense of being trapped in a beautiful cage, or did they find power in the narrow spaces they were permitted to control, the household, the social calendar, the domestic realm? You'll never know. But as sleep claims you, one thing is certain. Surviving as a Victorian woman required a strength modern people can barely comprehend. A different kind of strength than we celebrate today. Not independence or self-actualization, but endurance. The ability to bear constriction, limitation, and pain without complaint. Tomorrow brings a new challenge, navigating Victorian society beyond the home. The streets of London await with their own dangers and restrictions for a woman of your station. That's if you survive another night in this arsenic green bedroom, of course. You wake up still in 1860. Damn, part of you hoped this was just a particularly vivid nightmare brought on by binge-watching too many period dramas. But no, the lumpy mattress, the arsenic wallpaper, and Martha's anxious face hovering over you confirm that you're still trapped in Victorian England. "Good morning, miss," Martha says, already pulling back the curtains to reveal another grey London day. "Your mother says you're to accompany her to the shops this morning." Shopping. That sounds almost normal, maybe even fun. Oh, you sweet summer child. Victorian shopping is nothing like the retail therapy you're used to. The morning routine repeats. The pathetic sponge bath, the poisonous beauty regimen, the organ-crushing corset. But today Martha adds an extra layer of petticoats beneath your walking dress. "The streets are particularly foul today, miss," she explains. "The extra layer will keep the mud from soaking through." You're about to discover that particularly foul is the understatement of the century. After another bird-sized breakfast, you and your mother prepare to venture out. The process involves more equipment than a modern camping trip. Parasols to prevent tanning, gloves to prevent touching things, small bottles of smelling salts in case of fainting, calling cards for social visits, a small purse with exactly enough money for your planned purchases. Women carrying too much money is unseemly. And a heavy cloak despite it not being particularly cold. "Remember, Margaret," your mother says as Martha helps you with your outdoor garments, "we are going to Bond Street for ribbons, then to the stationer for your father's order, and then to pay our respects to Mrs. Pembroke, who is unwell. We shall be home by 2 o'clock precisely for luncheon." Every minute of your day is scheduled and monitored. Spontaneity doesn't exist in Victorian women's lives. You step out the front door and immediately want to retreat back inside. The streets of 1860s London are a sensory assault unlike anything you've ever experienced. First, the smell. Dear God. the smell. Raw sewage runs in open gutters along the streets. Horse manure is everywhere, each horse producing 20-30 pounds of it daily, and there are thousands of horses in London. Add to that the coal smoke, the rotting food, the unwashed bodies and the stench of the nearby Thames River, essentially an open sewer, and you've got a cocktail of odours that makes your eyes water. "Keep your handkerchief ready," your mother murmurs, pressing a scented cloth to her own nose. The handkerchief is doused in lavender water, a pitiful defence against the metropolitan miasma. Then there's the noise. Horse hooves and iron-rimmed carriage wheels on cobblestones create a deafening cacophony. Street vendors shout their wares, children scream, dogs bark. It's chaos. But the most immediate challenge is the ground beneath your feet. The hem of your dress drags through sewage and horse manure, collecting diseases with every step. Your shoes, dainty leather boots with almost no traction, slip on the slick, filthy cobblestones. One wrong step, and you'll not only fall into literal shit, but you'll also cause a social catastrophe by displaying an ankle, or, God forbid, a bit of calf. "Mind your skirts, Margaret," your mother hisses as you nearly step in something unspeakable, and do not make eye contact with anyone. That last part is harder than it sounds. The streets are teeming with humanity of all sorts, gentlemen in top hats, working men in caps, women of your class with downcast eyes, servants rushing on errands, street children with no shoes despite the cold. And prostitutes. You recognise them immediately by their direct gazes and slightly more colourful dresses. Some look as young as 13. Many are visibly ill. Victorian London has an estimated 80,000 sex workers, women with few other options for survival. They're simultaneously used by men and condemned by society. Your mother steers you well clear of them, as if poverty and desperation might be contagious. A carriage rushes past, spraying dirty water from a puddle. You jump back just in time, but a working-class woman walking nearby gets soaked. The carriage doesn't stop. The woman doesn't protest. This is just how it is. The poor are invisible obstacles to be avoided or ignored. You finally reach Bond Street, where the shops cater to the upper and middle classes. Here, at least, the streets are marginally cleaner. Your mother leads you into a small shop filled with ribbons, lace, and other decorative trim. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrison," the shopkeeper says with a bow. "How may I assist you today?" Shopping in Victorian times is a personal affair, no browsing aimlessly. You state what you want, and the shopkeeper brings items for your inspection. Your mother requests blue ribbons to match your evening gown for the Blackwood dinner, while the shopkeeper fetches options. You notice another young woman enter the shop with her mother. You recognise her immediately, Sophia Pembroke, daughter of the sainted Lady Pembroke, whose children are apparently perfect in every way. Your mother notices too and immediately adjusts her posture. "Mrs. Pembroke, what a pleasure. We were planning to call on you this morning. How is your health?" "Tolerable, thank you," Mrs. Pembroke replies. She looks perfectly healthy to you, but Victorian women of means are almost professionally unwell. Chronic, vague illness is a status symbol, proof you're delicate and don't need to work. "Sophia, you remember Mrs. Harrison's daughter, Margaret." Sophia offers you a practiced smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Of course. How lovely to see you, Margaret. I heard you'll be dining with the Blackwoods tomorrow. Edward is such a charming gentleman." There's something in her tone that makes your stomach clench. Does she know something about Edward Blackwood that you don't? "We look forward to it," your mother answers for you, because heaven forbid you speak for yourself. Margaret has a new blue silk for the occasion. The two mothers continue comparing their daughters like prized livestock, while you and Sophia stand in uncomfortable silence. You're supposed to be rivals in the marriage market after all. Friends are secondary to finding a husband. The shopkeeper returns with ribbon samples, and suddenly everyone has opinions on which shade of blue best complements your complexion. This mundane decision is treated with the gravity of international diplomacy because in Victorian England, appearances aren't just important, they're everything. With ribbons purchased, the most expensive option naturally, despite your family's budget constraints, you move on to the stationer's shop. Your father has ordered new visiting cards, a necessity in Victorian social life. Without them, you basically don't exist. As you walk, you pass a group of street children selling matches. They're filthy, skeletal thin, with hollow eyes that have seen too much. One, a girl no more than 6, approaches you. "Penny for matches, miss. Please, miss." Before you can respond, your mother shoos the child away like an annoying insect. "Move along, we've nothing for you." The desperate poverty hits you like a physical blow. In your time, you might have given the child money or at least acknowledged her humanity. Here, the class divide is an unbridgeable chasm. The child is as foreign to your Victorian life as a Martian would be. "Don't encourage them," your mother says, noticing your distress. "They're likely sent by pickpockets to distract us." Some are, it's true, but most are just hungry children trying to survive. Victorian London is particularly cruel to the young and vulnerable. Thousands of children live on the streets or in workhouses that are barely distinguishable from prisons. At the stationers, you encounter yet another aspect of Victorian public life, the different worlds men and women inhabit. While your mother discusses the visiting cards, a gentleman enters and immediately commands the shopkeeper's attention, despite having arrived after you. Your mother doesn't protest, neither does any other woman in the shop. Men come first, always. The gentleman completes his business and leaves without acknowledging any of the waiting women. This isn't considered rude, it's just how things are. Men and women operate in separate spheres with different rules, and men's needs and time are inherently more valuable. Cards collected, you head toward the Pembroke residence for your social call. On the way, you pass a group of women marching with signs, votes for women and property rights for married women, suffragists, early feminists fighting for basic rights. Your mother hurries you past them. "Disgraceful display," she mutters. "No respectable woman would participate in such vulgar exhibitions." The suffragist movement is gaining momentum in 1860s London, but it's still considered radical and unladylike. Most respectable women, like your mother, oppose it. They've internalized the very system that oppresses them. The Pembroke house is grand, grander than yours, which your mother notes with barely concealed envy. You're shown into a formal sitting room where Lady Pembroke reclines on a chaise lounge, looking dramatically ill despite her suspiciously healthy complexion. "My dear Mrs. Harrison, how good of you to call," she says weakly. "My nerves have been simply dreadful this week." Nervous complaints are the Victorian woman's acceptable outlet for any emotional or psychological distress. Depression, anxiety, frustration with their limited lives all get lumped under nerves or hysteria. The treatments range from useless to actively harmful. Bed rest, avoidance of stimulation, including reading or thinking too much, and sometimes even surgical intervention for severe cases. You sit stiffly on an uncomfortable chair while the women exchange gossip thinly disguised as concern. "Did you hear about young Miss Taylor?" Lady Pembroke asks, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Seen walking in the park with Mr. Foster, alone." The women gasp as if she'd announced Miss Taylor was found dancing naked in Trafalgar Square. Being alone with a man, even briefly, can destroy a woman's reputation, and a woman's reputation is her only currency. Her prospects are ruined, of course, Lady Pembroke continues with poorly concealed satisfaction. No decent family will receive her now. One walk, one minor breach of the suffocating social code, and a young woman's life is effectively over. She'll never make a good match now. The unfairness of it makes you want to scream, but your Victorian body remains perfectly composed, nodding along with appropriate dismay. After an appropriate 15 minutes, social calls are precisely timed, never too short, rude, or too long, imposing. You and your mother take your leave. Lady Pembroke presents Sophia as a model of feminine virtue, while you stand there imagining what it would be like to set the whole ridiculous system on fire. On the walk home, another aspect of Victorian street life becomes apparent. Street harassment. A group of gentlemen loiter outside a club, smoking cigars and watching women pass by. Despite your modest dress and downcast eyes, they make comments just loud enough for you to hear. Lovely figure on that one. Bet she's a lively filly in private. Your mother pretends not to hear, picking up her pace slightly. As a respectable woman, you have no defense against this behavior. Acknowledging it would be improper, challenging it unthinkable. All eyes evaluate your every move. How you walk, hold your parasol, acknowledge greetings, men assess your physical attributes, women judge your adherence to social codes, servants note your class markers. There is no privacy in public, no moment when you aren't performing your gender and class for an audience. The constant surveillance is exhausting. The mental checklist never ends. Keep your back straight, eyes modestly down, skirts clear of filth, parasol at the correct angle. Don't walk too quickly, unladylike, or too slowly. Causes congestion. Don't attract attention. Don't fade into the background either, or your marriage prospects suffer. As you navigate these impossible standards, you pass a familiar figure, the match girl from earlier. She's huddled in a doorway now, no longer actively selling. She looks unwell, her small face flushed. You recognize the symptoms from your modern knowledge. Phossy jaw, a horrific occupational disease caused by the white phosphorus used in matchmaking. Her jawbone is literally decaying inside her face. The desperate woman begging with her children is invisible to the passing carriages. The wealthy avert their eyes. The slightly less wealthy hurry past, afraid of falling into the same circumstances. The poor help when they can, sharing what little they have, but it's never enough. Victorian charity exists, but it's often performative and judgmental, more about making the giver feel virtuous than actually helping. The suffering of the poor is seen as either divinely ordained or the result of moral failings, not as a systemic issue requiring structural change. You arrive home just before 2 o'clock, right on schedule. Martha helps remove your outdoor things, tisking at the state of your hem. Dreadful weather, miss. I'll have this cleaned straight away. You realise that your brief outing has created hours of extra work for Martha, washing and pressing your soiled garments, cleaning your muddy boots, preparing fresh accessories for your next excursion. The Victorian lifestyle requires an army of invisible workers to maintain. Luncheon is served precisely at 2. Again, your portion is tiny compared to your brother's, who has joined you today. He dominates the conversation with tales of his university friends and professors. No one expects you to contribute anything but appreciative nods. After lunch, your mother announces, "We have calls to make this afternoon." More social visits, more performative femininity, more rigid rules to follow. But these visits serve a purpose beyond mere socializing. They're intelligence-gathering missions. Through these carefully choreographed interactions, your mother collects information vital to your family's social survival. Who's rising in society? Who's falling? Which families have marriageable sons? Which young women are your competition? The afternoon proceeds much like the morning, but with deteriorating weather. The infamous London fog grows thicker, taking on a yellowish hue from coal smoke. It burns your lungs and makes your eyes water. People around you cough constantly. Victorian London's air quality regularly killed people through respiratory diseases. By the time you return home for tea, you're physically and mentally exhausted. Your feet ache from walking on uneven cobblestones in impractical boots. Your head pounds from the constant vigilance required to navigate public spaces as a woman. Your lungs burn from the polluted air. Yet, you've accomplished nothing of substance. You haven't learned anything, created anything, helped anyone, or even enjoyed yourself. You've simply existed in public in the approved manner for your gender and class. Tea is another performance. Pouring correctly, sitting properly, making appropriate small talk. The monotony is broken only when your father arrives home early, bringing unexpected news. "I encountered Edward Blackwood at my club today," he announces. "Fine young man, very keen to make your acquaintance, Margaret." Your mother practically vibrates with excitement. "Did he mention the dinner tomorrow?" "Indeed," seemed quite eager for it. Your father gives you an appraising look. "You'll make a good impression, I trust." It's not really a question. Failure isn't an option. Your entire worth as a daughter hinges on your ability to attract a suitable husband. It doesn't matter if Edward Blackwood is kind or cruel, intelligent or dull, compatible with you or completely at odds. What matters is his income, his social standing, and his willingness to take you off your parents' hands. "Yes, father," you hear yourself say. "Good girl." He nods, returning to his newspaper, already dismissing you from his thoughts. After tea, you're granted a rare hour of leisure before dinner preparations begin. Your mother suggests you practice piano, another marriageable skill, but your Victorian self has a small rebellion in mind. "I thought I might read, Mother, just for a short while." Your mother frowns, but allows it. Nothing too stimulating. Dr. Richardson says excessive reading overexcites the female mind. You retreat to a small alcove with a book, a bland novel deemed suitable for young ladies. Nothing that might introduce dangerous ideas like independence or equality. Even fictional women who step outside their prescribed roles are inevitably punished with death or social ruin by the final chapter. As you pretend to read, your mind drifts to the day's experiences, the stark contrasts between rich and poor, the elaborate performances required of women, the suffocating social codes that keep everyone in their assigned place. You wonder how real Victorian women survived this, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. How did they endure lives so circumscribed, so limited, so constantly judged? Did they secretly rage against their gilded cages, or did they simply not know any other possibility existed? The hour passes too quickly, and it's time to prepare for dinner. Another dress, another performance, another step toward your predetermined fate as Edward Blackwood's wife, or someone like him. As Martha helps you change, you catch sight of yourself in the mirror. Your face is pale from the toxic beauty regimen, your waist unnaturally tiny from the corset, your posture perfect from years of training and social pressure. You look exactly as a Victorian woman should. Pretty, delicate, decorative, constrained, and inside you're screaming. The next day arrives with a sense of dread. Today is the dinner with Edward Blackwood, the man your parents have decided might be your future husband, the man who will legally own you if you marry. "We must make you absolutely perfect tonight," your mother declares as Martha helps you dress for breakfast. "The Blackwoods are an excellent family, better than we could have hoped for, frankly." Thanks, Mother. Nothing like starting the day with a reminder of your family's precarious social standing. After breakfast, the house erupts into a flurry of activity. The best china is brought out and inspected for chips. The silver is polished again, despite being done last week. The menu is reviewed obsessively, not too ostentatious, suggests trying too hard, but impressive enough to demonstrate your family's status. Or, Margaret, you will practice your piano for 2 hours this morning, your mother instructs. Mr. Blackwood is known to appreciate music. Great. 2 hours of mindless scales and simple, acceptable pieces. Nothing too complex or passionate. That might suggest an unbecoming intensity of emotion. Victorian men want wives who are accomplished enough to entertain guests, but not so talented they might outshine their husbands. The day crawls by in anxious preparation. By late afternoon, you're being laced into your best corset, tighter than usual despite your already difficulty breathing. We must get you to 18 inches tonight, your mother insists, as Martha pulls the laces. The blue silk won't sit properly otherwise. The pain is immediate and breath-stealing. Your ribs compress, your organs shift. Black spots dance before your eyes. I can't breathe, you gasp. Oh, nonsense. Mrs. Pembroke told me her Sophia wears her corset to 17 inches for special occasions. Surely you can manage 18. You'd argue further, but you literally don't have the oxygen to form words. Martha gives you an apologetic look as she ties off the laces. The blue silk dress goes on next, your best gown, saved for important occasions. It's beautiful, with delicate lace trim and tiny pearl buttons. It's also incredibly heavy and restrictive, designed to showcase your artificially tiny waist and modest demeanour. Your hair is tortured into an elaborate updo, secured with so many pins your scalp screams in protest. Minimal makeup, just enough rice powder to appear fashionably pale and a touch of rouge subtly applied so it doesn't look like makeup at all. By the time the Blackwoods carriage arrives, you're a perfect Victorian vision and in perfect Victorian agony. Remember, your mother hisses as you prepare to greet the guests. Speak only when spoken to. Laugh at Mr. Blackwood's jokes, but not too loudly. Show interest in his conversation, but don't appear too knowledgeable. And for heaven's sake, maintain your posture. The Blackwoods enter, Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood, their daughter Florence, and the man himself, Edward, your potential husband. Your first impression is relief. He's not hideously old or visibly deformed, maybe 30, reasonably handsome in a bland sort of way, well-dressed without being flashy. Your second impression is less comforting. His eyes, cold, assessing, like he's checking a horse's teeth before purchase. Miss Harrison, he says, bowing slightly. A pleasure to make your acquaintance at last. I've heard much about you. You curtsy, murmuring an appropriate greeting. The formal dance of Victorian courtship has begun. Dinner is an elaborate affair. Soup, fish, meat, vegetables, pudding, fruit, cheese, all served with precise timing by your household staff, who've been drilled within an inch of their lives for this performance. You're seated beside Edward, as custom dictates. The conversation is painfully stilted, with your father and Mr. Blackwood discussing business, politics, and other male topics, while the women offer occasional supportive comments. I understand you play the pianoforte, Miss Harrison, Edward says during a lull. Yes, Mr. Blackwood, though I fear I play rather poorly. This is the expected response. Even if you were a virtuoso, Victorian modesty requires you to downplay your abilities. Perhaps you might favour us with a piece after dinner. It's not really a request. You smile and nod, already dreading the performance. And do you read, Miss Harrison? He continues, a dangerous question. Reading the wrong books suggests an independent mind, a quality Victorian men definitely don't want in a wife. Only what my mother approves, sir. I find improving literature most rewarding. Translation: I only read boring moral tales that reinforce traditional values, nothing that might give me ideas above my station. He seems satisfied with this answer. Excellent. Too many young women these days fill their heads with romantic nonsense. A practical mind is much more valuable in a wife.